This is the short version. Stop. This piece uses verified reports only. DHS news outlets' official statements. In the pre-dawn hours of early September, a new federal immigration enforcement action began to unfold across the Chicago metropolitan area. Federal agents from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement initiated a large-scale operation officially titled Operation Midway Blitz. The action, which formally commenced around September 6th, was described by the Department of Homeland Security as a targeted effort. Its stated mission was to locate and apprehend undocumented immigrants who had existing criminal records. The agency announced that the initiative was launched in honor of Katie Abraham, a victim of a fatal drunk driving hit and run in Illinois. The operation immediately drew significant attention from local communities, media, and political leaders. The timing and intensity of the operation set it apart from routine enforcement. It was not a quiet background process, but a highly visible and publicly declared campaign. DHS officials were clear in their messaging, linking the operation directly to a specific case to underscore its purpose. The announcement sent immediate waves of alarm and uncertainty through Chicago's vast immigrant communities. Advocacy groups and legal aid organizations quickly began mobilizing, attempting to disseminate information about legal rights and what to do during an encounter with federal agents. The name Midway Blitz itself suggested a rapid, forceful, and concentrated effort, contributing to a growing climate of fear. The operation marked a significant escalation of federal immigration enforcement in a city that had long positioned itself as a sanctuary for immigrants, setting the stage for a period of heightened tension and scrutiny across the region. As the operation unfolded over the initial days from September 6th to September 8th and beyond, its effects became increasingly tangible. News reports began to surface detailing arrests, community reactions, and the visible presence of federal law enforcement in neighborhoods far beyond Chicago's city limits. The heightened political significance of Operation Midway Blitz was underscored by the direct involvement of the nation's top Homeland Security official. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was physically present for parts of the enforcement action in the Chicago area. Her participation was not covert. She actively publicized her role, posting footage of an early morning raid on the social media platform X. This level of personal involvement by a cabinet-level secretary in a field operation is unusual, and served to amplify the message that the administration was prioritizing this crackdown. Her presence transformed the operation from a regional enforcement action into a national news event, making her the public face of the immigration crackdown. According to official sources and news reports from outlets like CBS Chicago, the initial phase of the operation resulted in a significant number of arrests. U.S. Representative Lauren Underwood, a ranking member of the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Appropriations, stated that ICE had reportedly arrested 250 individuals in the days following the operation's start on September 6th. This figure, later corroborated by ICE reports, provided the first concrete measure of the operation's immediate impact. Beyond the immediate numbers from the Blitz, data from earlier in the year indicated a broader trend of increased enforcement in the state. An analysis by WBEZ Chicago revealed a dramatic uptick in ICE activity in Illinois well before the September operation. Between mid-January and the end of July 2025, ICE arrests had already risen by 59% compared to the same period in 2024, representing 537 more individuals taken into custody. While the operation was named for Chicago's Midway Airport and initially announced as focusing on the city, its geographic reach extended far beyond the city limits. Representative Lauren Underwood's office issued a press release clarifying that the surge was designated to include the entire state of Illinois, as well as neighboring Lake County, Indiana. This revelation demonstrated that the operation was a broad, regional strategy, affecting suburban and rural communities just as much as the urban core. Residents in towns across the state found themselves within the operational zone of the federal blitz. The uncertainty of where agents might appear next, a suburban workplace, a rural town, or a city neighborhood, was a key psychological component of the operation, amplifying fear and disrupting daily life for many who worried about their status or the status of a family member or neighbor. The official designation of the operation's territory to include the entire state of Illinois was a significant detail that underscored the federal government's assertive stance. It suggested a comprehensive plan to address what DHS perceived as a statewide issue stemming from state-level policies. The sheer scale of Operation Midway Blitz confirmed that it was one of the most significant and widespread immigration enforcement efforts seen in the region in recent years, marking a new chapter in the ongoing friction between federal immigration authorities and the state of Illinois. The increase in arrests was matched by an even more staggering rise in detentions. The number of people detained had soared by 185%, meaning that 3,182 more people were held in ICE custody in the area. As news of the arrests spread, the primary ICE processing center in the Chicago suburb of Broadview became a flashpoint for protest and confrontation. Almost immediately, immigrant rights advocates, community organizers, and concerned residents gathered outside the facility to demonstrate against the operation. The facility, already fortified and boarded up, became the symbolic epicenter of the resistance to the federal blitz. Organizers announced their intention to maintain a constant presence, planning weekly demonstrations for as long as Operation Midway Blitz continued, transforming the building's exterior into a space of vocal opposition and solidarity with those being detained inside. On Friday, September 12th, the situation grew particularly intense. Video footage captured by local news outlets, including ABC 7 Chicago, showed federal agents deploying crowd control measures to disperse the growing crowds. White smoke, identified by reporters as tear gas, filled the air, causing people to scatter. These intense moments highlighted the deep chasm between the community's anger and the federal government's resolve to continue its enforcement actions. According to official statements, 3 individuals described as rioters were taken into custody during the clashes at Broadview. In the same statements, federal officials expressed grave concern for the safety of their officers. ICE reported a more than 1,000% increase in assaults against its enforcement officers, a startling statistic that underscored the heightened risk and animosity surrounding their work. Officials stated that in the days surrounding the protests, vehicles were allegedly used as weapons against ICE officers. The impact of Operation Midway Blitz extended far beyond those who were arrested. One of the most prominent casualties was the cancellation of El Grito Chicago, a large and popular festival celebrating Mexican Independence Day that was scheduled to take place in Grant Park. Organizers made the difficult decision to call off the major event after discussions with city and state officials, citing the direct threat posed by the large-scale immigration enforcement operation. A smaller neighborhood-based El Grito event in the Pilsen neighborhood proceeded, but Block Club Chicago reported that attendance was visibly diminished. Many families and individuals chose to stay home, afraid that attending a large public gathering could expose them or their loved ones to the risk of an encounter with ICE agents. People became wary of participating in public life in ways they normally would, from attending festivals, going to parks, running daily errands. Community leaders and advocates reported that residents were asking for advice on how to navigate this new reality, with many expressing anxiety about leaving their homes. The operation created an environment where the simple act of being in a public space felt fraught with risk for anyone who was undocumented or had undocumented family members. The decision by families to stay away from cultural events revealed the deep psychological impact of the enforcement blitz. It demonstrated that the operation's effects were not limited to the 250 individuals who were arrested, but were felt by tens of thousands more who were forced to retreat into the shadows. This retreat from public life threatened to erode the social cohesion and trust that community leaders and city officials had worked for years to build, showcasing the profound human cost of the enforcement strategy. In its public communications during and after Operation Midway Blitz, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement strategically highlighted the arrests of individuals with serious criminal backgrounds. The agency aimed to reinforce its official narrative that the operation was focused on protecting public safety by removing dangerous criminals from communities. A key example cited by ICE was the successful capture of 2 suspects involved in a deadly mass shooting on December 2, 2024. The incident took place at a house party attended predominantly by Venezuelan nationals. It resulted in 3 deaths and multiple injuries, shocking the city. ICE announced that Homeland Security investigations had played a crucial role in apprehending the alleged perpetrators. One suspect, 25-year-old Venezuelan national Ricardo Granadillo Padilla, was arrested on February 8, 2025. Another suspected shooter, 24-year-old Venezuelan national Edward Martinez Cermeno, had been arrested earlier on January 15th. ICE explicitly linked both men to the transnational criminal organization Tren de Aragua. By publicizing these high-profile captures, ICE sought to show its agents' effectiveness in tackling violent crime and to justify broader enforcement actions in the region. These announcements were a critical part of the federal public relations strategy. Focusing on violent crimes like the mass shooting allowed ICE to frame its work around public safety. The tactic aimed to counter critics who said the operation was an indiscriminate sweep targeting undocumented immigrants. ICE's message: agents on the front lines apprehending dangerous individuals, including alleged murderers, linked to international gangs whom local sanctuary policies might otherwise overlook. This focus on egregious criminal cases bolstered the federal justification for the operation. It provided concrete examples to support the claim that Chicago and Illinois had become havens for criminal elements. In a direct and public response to the federal government's actions, Chicago's leadership moved swiftly to reinforce the city's protective policies for immigrants. Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order to strengthen and reaffirm Chicago's status as a welcoming city. The order explicitly barred Chicago Police Department officers from collaborating with federal immigration agents. We will not have our police officers who are working hard every single day to drive down crime deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president. The comment highlighted resource allocation and local autonomy. The mayor said CPD's primary mission was to address local crime and build community trust. The executive order aimed to keep local police focused on local priorities. It contained specific directives to distinguish local from federal officers. Chicago police must wear their uniforms while on duty. Chicago police are prohibited from wearing masks while on duty. The rule's purpose: make CPD clearly distinguishable from federal agents. It responded to community fears that plainclothes or masked officers could be mistaken for ICE agents, eroding trust and hindering police work in immigrant neighborhoods. The measure provided visual reassurance residents that local police were not part of the federal immigration sweep. This reinforcement of sanctuary policies became a significant moment in the power struggle between city and federal government. Mayor Johnson's order was more than symbolic. It was a concrete legal barrier denying federal agents the support of the city's larger police force. The act ensured Chicago remained a key battleground in the national conflict over immigration policy and states' rights. While federal authorities were making arrests on the ground, the city used legislative and executive powers to create distance from the operation. Operation Midway Blitz left an indelible mark on Chicago and the state of Illinois. In summary, the verified facts show that the Department of Homeland Security launched a large-scale, multi-day enforcement action beginning around September 6, 2025. According to DHS, its purpose was to arrest non-citizens with criminal records, and its necessity was attributed to local sanctuary policies. The operation was notable for the on-the-ground presence of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and resulted in approximately 250 arrests in its initial phase, contributing to a documented 59% rise in ICE arrests in Illinois for 2025. Protests at the Broadview ICE facility led to clashes, arrests, and the use of tear gas by federal agents. The community impact was profound and immediate. Fear of the enforcement actions led to the cancellation of major cultural events, including the El Grito Chicago Festival in Grant Park, as many residents chose to stay home to avoid potential encounters with ICE. In its public statements, ICE highlighted the arrests of suspects in violent crimes, such as a 2024 mass shooting, to justify the operation's focus on public safety. In response, Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson reaffirmed the city's sanctuary policies with an executive order expressly forbidding local police from collaborating with federal immigration agents. This series of events showcased a dramatic clash between federal authority and local governance, played out in real time across the region. In an environment filled with strong emotions and conflicting information, it is crucial to ground our understanding in verified facts. When navigating complex events like these, always check the sources of information. Rely on official statements from the agencies involved, DHS and ICE. Cross-reference these with reports from established local and national news outlets that conduct their own independent verification. Be cautious of unverified claims and viral content on social media, as misinformation can spread quickly during tense situations. Fact-checking before you share is a vital civic responsibility that contributes to a more informed public discourse. The story of Operation Midway Blitz is a story of policy, enforcement, and human impact. As the situation evolves, the most constructive action any of us can take is to stay informed through credible sources. Understanding the facts, the numbers, the locations, the official justifications, and the community responses is the first step toward a meaningful conversation. Beyond that, it is essential to engage with our communities and neighbors with empathy and kindness, recognizing the real-world consequences these events have on people's lives. Clear information and mutual respect are the best tools we have to navigate these challenging issues together. Have a great day, stay informed, share responsibly, and don't forget to subscribe for more verified news coverage.